Welcome, everybody. My name is Andrew Patricio, and over the last 20 years, I've been educating, training, and motivating business owners to build successful businesses. And whenever we start working with business owners, we still focus on the basics. How do you test the viability of your business idea? How do you see if your business idea has the potential to succeed? And the method we still use in 2017 is the business plan. So what I'm going to share with you today are some tips and guidelines on how you create an absolutely brilliant business plan, which you can then use. You can shop it around to advisors, you can share it with investors, or you can just use it for yourself. And I encourage you to do this, every single one of you. If you haven't created a business plan in a long time, maybe now's the time to start it, to really keep your business focused, to keep it on track, and ensure that you build a great business. One of the things that I find, and I was even thinking about it this morning, is that business is changing so much, just so much, that you and I almost have to reinvent our businesses on a regular basis. And this is where the business plan helps, because it goes through every single section of your business and it makes you think, what am I doing about this? What am I doing about this? You know, am I still on track to build a successful business? So why do I really like business plans? There are a couple of reasons. One, it forces us to arrange our thoughts in a logical order. Because the one problem we have as business owners, and all of us are like this, is that often we almost got a bit of an attention deficit. Our brain is all over the place. We're thinking about this, then we're moving across to this, and we're moving to that. And what happens is, even when we explain our business ideas or our concepts or our growth plan, we don't go through every single point. And this is what I like about business plans. It makes you think about everything. It makes you think about the product, makes you think about the marketing, makes you think about the break-even, makes you check the cash flow situation. All of these things are key. The other thing about the business plan, it forces you, and this is the key thing, it forces you to simulate reality and anticipate problems before they happen. So you could create a business plan and very quickly realize that your business is not viable. It's just not going to make it. And I encourage you to do this. I'm going through a process now, and I don't even know if this business is just in my head or it's something that I can potentially launch in the future. But the most important thing for me is this thing viable? So I'm still going through the research phase, checking out the competitors, seeing what suppliers are out there. But eventually I'm going to sit down, work on a very clear plan, because that's when I will decide, should I move forward? Or should I just move on and give up on this idea? Because the reality is, as business owners, we often coming up with ideas. And one of the things we've got to do, instead of sitting on that idea, is sit down and test the viability of that idea. The other thing that the business plan helps you do, it'll be your working action plan, really your to-do list, the process you need to go through to build this business. If you're going to be applying for finance, they're going to ask you for a business plan. You go to your local bank, you go to your local small business center, you take part in any of these government programs where they give small business loans or grants, they're going to ask you for a business plan. The other thing is it can eliminate potential flaws in your business, and this is really a key thing. You've got to make sure that you understand the importance of this, is that before you even get your business up and running, you want to make sure that you look at the numbers. Is this thing viable? Has this got the potential? Is there too much competition? All of these are the type of questions you want to be answered. And it's an essential decision-making tool. And this is why I think a business plan for all of us is important. And you've got to do it. You know, and I've got to do it whenever I come up with a new idea. And the reason I've got to do it is it allow me either to move forward with an idea or to give up on the idea. And then you can move on. And I think this is one of the reasons that I really like business plans. So think about this if you're trying to look for a reason. Let's start off at the beginning. I often, when I work with business owners, and yesterday I was working with a brand new group, and lately I've been working with a lot of new groups, which has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. And it's really interesting. Somebody said to me that the screen has disappeared. I entered again, but there's an echo. Teresa, if there's an echo, what's happened is you've opened two browsers. So Therese, just close one browser. So if you've got an echo, you've opened two browsers. Anyway, so let's move on. But the starting point for any business plan, as I was saying early on, is I was working with a brand new group yesterday and a new group last week, and I said to them, and I think this is so important that you understand this, if you've got very powerful reasons of why you should succeed, your chances of succeeding are far greater. And I want you to understand that. If you've got really powerful reasons to succeed, your chances of succeeding are far greater. And this is what I encourage business owners to do, is to dream. Think about the perfect business for you. And I encourage you to do this. Visualize it. You know, where's it going to operate? How big is it going to be? Who are the customers going to be? Those are the type of things you want to do. But think about your business 5 years into the future. What is this going to look like? And the more clarity you have, the better it is for you. So what will your business become? In 3 years' time? In 5 years' time? In 10 years' time? I mean, if we look at businesses, for example, like Amazon today, you can imagine Jeff Bezos years ago already thinking about what this business was going to become. He had a clear idea. Or if anybody's had the opportunity to watch videos of people like Elon Musk, and you see what their vision is, you see what their dreams are, you see what they want to build, this is very, very empowering. Because when you know what you want to build, when you have a clear idea of what your business is going to become, you can then get advice. The problem is that when we don't know where we want to go, this is when it's difficult to find the right people to go to. And just be aware of this, is that once you know what you want to achieve, we can help you achieve it. But when you don't know, it makes it very, very difficult. So think about your business into the future. What do you believe it's going to look like? Think about things like, are you going to operate it locally, internationally, nationally? It really doesn't make any difference. You have to make this decision. And the other thing I encourage you to think about is, what is your exit strategy? So if you start out in the beginning thinking about this, for example, let's say you're going into a very competitive industry and one of your objectives is to be bought out by one of your bigger competitors. You've got to think about this in advance and start building a business that can be bought out by your competitors. So this is where vision is really important. If you know where you want to go, you can work out how to get there. It's when we're not sure where we want to go that we create confusion. So I encourage you to think about this. Think about your business into the future. Think about what do you want this business to become, and think about how you can achieve that. And I encourage you to do this. This is what I say to small business owners, is that one of the most painful jobs, one of the most painful parts of my job is marketing business plans. And over the last 3 years, I've marked maybe about 400 business plans. So I've been working on this project and marking them on a regular basis. And let me tell you something. The reason I dislike marking business plans or reviewing business plans is because people put a lot of garbage in them. But the one thing I've realized also is that the presentation of the business plan has an impact on the reader. So if I get a business plan that just looks professional, that is well structured, that is well laid out, you know, that the content is spaced out, that the headings and the content is easy to read, those are things that influence my decision. And because I'm involved in a bunch of projects at the moment, I realize very, very quickly that if somebody does a great presentation, or if somebody presents a great business plan, it influences my decision. So understand this as a business owner, is that your presentation can help you raise money if that's your decision you want to do. Or let's use another example. Often landlords nowadays are asking new tenants to create a business plan, especially if you're not a franchise. If you create a professional presentation, your chances of getting that site are so much better. So think about this. When you create your business plan, make sure the front page looks absolutely professional, with your business name, with your logo. Make sure on the second page you have your contact details, the date of your business plan. include a clear contents page so that if I'm reading your plan and I want to check out your financials, I can go straight there if I want to, and make sure that it looks professional. I encourage you to spend an extra 5 minutes or spend an extra 10 minutes making this business plan look beautiful. It's really worth the effort because it impresses the reader, and if your business plan impresses me, the chances of me pushing you forward are so much better. The second page of your business plan, it's interesting, I haven't looked at these slides for a little while, but the second page of your business plan is your executive summary, or the second part of your business plan. This section you do last. So you'll do it at the end of writing your business plan, and I encourage you to create an executive summary of at least 1 page, not more. I've put 2 pages on the slide, but since I've been doing this on a regular basis, I think that 1 page is even better, or even 1.5 pages rather than 2 pages. But your executive summary is the most important part of the business plan. You've got to understand that 99% of business plans are rejected because of the executive summary. Because this is the first part I, as a reviewer, are going to read. And if I find it very interesting, I may read the balance of the business plan. But if I don't, I'm just going to move on. So think of it as the most important part of your business plan. You need to make it interesting. You need to make it engaging. And only include relevant information. So a description of your business and your industry, why you believe your business idea is viable, what your growth strategy is. And you'll see this comment I'll put at the bottom of the slide, that after reading your executive summary, the very busy reader, which is me, wants to read more. And that is the key thing, is they want to read more. And ideally, you want to do that. I'm going to answer your question a little bit later on. Rocio that put this question, I'll answer your question a little bit later on, but I won't forget it, so don't worry. So in your executive summary, include a summarized sales and marketing strategy. You know, this is really, really key, that you have information in your executive summary of how you're going to generate sales and how you're going to market your product or service out there. The other thing you want to include in there is your expected gross profit margin. You know, what is your profit? Is it going to be 30%? Is it going to be 40%? Is it going to be 50%? Whatever it is, because if I'm an experienced person in your industry, I can very quickly decide if this idea is viable based on the gross profit margin that you've shared in your executive summary. The other thing you would include is your net profit. Again, the only thing I want you to understand is that you only put the relevant information. If you're not sure if you should put this in the executive summary, do not put it. Make sure that it's really clear that the information that you've got in there is 100% relevant. The other thing you want to put in there is how much money you require. Let's say, for example, you're trying to raise a loan, or you're trying to raise finance for your business. Ideally, you'd put in, I want to raise $125,000, or I need to get a loan for $42,550, whatever it is. But the more clear you are, the better it is. The other thing you need to include, this is a really interesting point, and I'm going to discuss it a little bit later on again. But the one thing that influences a banker's and investor's decision about whether to give you a loan or to invest in your business is your management experience. So understand that. If you do not have experience in an industry and you're trying to start in that industry, this is what I encourage business owners to do, is to go and learn. Go and learn how to operate that type of business. Get a job for 3 months or 6 months. Work in that industry. Learn everything you can. And that's going to make you a better business owner. So make sure that you understand this. Your business vision, a clear idea of what your business vision is. The more clarity you have, the better it is for you. So think about this. What is important for the reader? And there's a lot of really important stuff here. Lots of really important stuff in your executive summary. You know, things that I would ask you is like, you know, what are your sales and marketing strategies? What is your expected gross profit margin? What is your net profit? How much money do you need? Who's going to manage this? What's your business vision? Another question I may ask you, for example, is what is your break-even point? These are the type of questions that investors ask. If these are the type of questions that investors ask, you need to have this in your executive summary. So they're going to read this, they're going to be interested, and they'll either move forward or not move forward. So make sure that you address that. What other stuff would you include in your business plan? Yeah, you'd put a little bit more detail. So remember, your executive summary would summarize the whole business plan. This would explain the stuff in a little bit more detail. So for example, business ownership. If you've incorporated, let's say you'd put that in your business plan. I've incorporated, we are 3 shareholders, and each shareholder's shares you could put in there. If you have any trademarks, that could be really important. Maybe you've trademarked your name or trademarked your logo. That could be important to the reader. If you have any patents, that could be important. Let's say you have a special license, that could be important. But the more stuff you put in here that's relevant for the reader, the better it is for you. But let's use another example. Let's say I'm operating a service business out of my basement, not to trying to change the world, but just building a little business. Well, the legal stuff is not that important. Maybe I'll operate as a sole proprietor, or maybe I'll incorporate. Maybe I'll have a trademark, maybe I won't. I probably won't have a patent. There aren't any licenses I need to do. Not that relevant. Don't include in your plan. So the idea here is very simple. Only include relevant stuff in your business plan. Actually, if any of you want a business plan template, you can always email me, and I'll send you one that I use on a regular basis for a program I'm running. It's a really simple one, nothing flashy, but if anybody's looking for one, you can send me an email, and I will send you a copy of the business plan template that I'm using. So I've just put my email in the chat column if any of you are interested. Anyway, so the legal stuff. The next one is the marketing plan. I would encourage you to spend a lot of time on your marketing. This is what I say to business owners, is that sales solves most problems. So if you're trying to raise money, or if you're trying to build a successful business, that's got to be your focus. Your focus is going to be, how am I going to get more customers? But you've got to understand your industry. I find that the majority of people do not do enough research. So the first thing you need to do is to do primary research. This is where you go and speak to people. You go into different businesses. You go into businesses like yours. Go to different cities. Go and speak to a person that runs a business very much like yours and ask them. Say, you know what, this is what I'm going to open. What do you recommend I do? Where do you recommend I buy the equipment? How much should I invest in it? What should my gross profit margin be? All of those things are really key. You've got to find out this information. You've got to know who your competitors are. You've got to know how much they charge. The more you know about your industry, the better it is for you. And this is where I find a lot of people, have a downfall. They don't do enough research. They don't understand their industries enough. And then they go and create a business plan without information. So this is what I say to my new startups. And it shocks them sometimes, actually, when I say this. I say to them, go and interview at least 50 potential customers before you open your business. And I want you to interview them in person or over the telephone. Ask them about your product. Ask them about the services you're going to sell. Ask them about how much they're prepared to pay. Ask them about who they're buying from now. Ask them about what they like about the suppliers, what they don't like about the suppliers. You've got to really understand your industry. So that's your primary research. Your secondary research is something you can find on Google. Really, you can find a lot of information on Google about your industry, about the economy in your region, about the market trends that are changing. These things are key. In your business plan, you're going to summarize this in one paragraph so the reader understands what's happening in your industry. I mean, last week, for example, there was that massive announcement of Amazon taking over Whole Foods. If you are retailing the food business, I think you should be scared. You should relook at your business plan and maybe rethink your whole business model, because there's a lot of competition coming. But you've got to understand that, because if you don't understand that, you're not going to be able to raise money for your business. Your target market, you've got to be very clear which customer you can supply better than anybody else. And I encourage you to do your research and find it out. Have a very clear idea of who your customer is. And tell the investor or tell the reader or the business plan review, this is my target market. This is what I know about them. This is how much they spend. This is at what stage they are in their lives. The more detail you have, the better it is. Then you have to give us sales projections. This is really key. I encourage all of you, before you start any business, for those of you that haven't started yet, for those of you that have started, make sure that you do a good sales projection. Go and speak to other similar business owners. Speak to advisors. Speak to accountants, because you want to check the viability of your idea. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to do a sales forecast, because that's going to help you create a cash flow forecast, and that's going to help you check the viability by looking at your break-even point. So do projected sales. Whatever you do, when you create a sales forecast, always include the assumptions you've made. This is really key. All right, let's move on and see what else goes into this business plan. You need to include a SWOT analysis of yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities for growth? And what are the threats to your industry? The more clarity you have on this, the better it is for you. The second thing is, who are your competitors? I would encourage you to find the top 3 or 5 competitors in your industry, identify their strengths, and identify their weaknesses, and put this into your business plan. Put this into your business plan saying, competitor 1, this is her strengths, these are her weaknesses. Competitor 2, this is his strengths, these are his weaknesses. The more you understand what your competitor's strengths or weaknesses are, the more you can capitalize on this. Because let me tell you something. People will only buy from you if you are unique, different, or special. If you are selling products or services like everybody else, you are going to struggle to survive, because the only thing that differentiates you is your price. So think about this. This should obsess you. This should keep you up at night. Another thing to keep you up at night is, why should people buy from you? What is it that you're going to do that is unique? What is it that you're going to do that is special? What is it that you're going to do that is different, that encourages people to buy from you? Think about this and focus on that. Create a detailed marketing plan. Include your promotions. How are you going to get customers? Are you going to use email marketing? Are you going to use Facebook marketing? Are you going to use flyers? Are you going to use the telephone? Whatever you use, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that you have a plan. So create a detailed promotional plan of exactly what you're going to do to get customers. Think about this. How are you going to generate sales? If you do not market effectively, you're not going to generate enough sales to sustain this business. What is your marketing budget? How much are you going to spend every month on your marketing? And usually we spend between about 3% and 10% of our revenue on marketing. You decide. If you're in a very competitive industry, maybe spend about 3% of your revenue on marketing. If you're in a service type business, maybe spend 10% or even higher on marketing. If you're going to be opening a business in a location, maybe you'd include a map. For example, if you're opening a retail store, including a map in your business plan would be a very good idea, and explaining to the reader why you've chosen this position. So think of the reader, and the more visuals you have, the better it is. So this is what I encourage business owners to put in their business plans. I encourage them to put photographs. I encourage them to put designs. I encourage them to put maps. I encourage them to put flowcharts. The more visuals, the more the reader understands your business, the better it is for you. So think about this. Have I explained the concept well enough? Have I explained how am I going to get customers well enough? All of these things you need to know. When it comes to the people or the human resources in your business, how many people do you intend employing? What are their job descriptions? Maybe you'd give just a one-liner on what each person is going to be doing. Maybe include short resumes as an attachment if this is really important because you've got specialized skills in your industry. Have a training plan. You know, how are you going to train these people up to offer great service to your customers? Have a list of your board of directors or your board of advisors, because some of us don't have boards of directors, but we may have advisors that advise us on a regular basis. If I know you've got a bunch of people that are mentoring you and advising you that are influential in the industry, this will really help. So these are some of the things that you want to include in your plan. When it comes to the financials, you've got to understand that many investors and many bankers really want to know that you know your financials. So one of the things you've got to think about is, how much am I going to charge for every product or service? What is my gross profit margin going to be? And you've got to know this. You've got to know what the industry average is. You've got to know what your competitors are getting, or at least guess what they're getting by looking at what prices they charge, and make sure that every single thing you produce, you know the cost price and the selling price, because then you can work out the gross profit margin. Put in your information in your business plan, because that's one of the first questions I'm going to ask, is what is your break-even point? The second thing is, what record-keeping system are you going to use? And this is really key, that you're very clear on what you're going to be using, because this could be influential. What are your financial assumptions? Every one of you have to put financial forecasts in your business plan, because if you don't, you're not going to raise the money. So your income and expense projections for the first 3 years, or your income statement, usually they'll ask for 3 years. Your monthly or your annual break-even, how much revenue do you need to generate every month to survive in this business? And a cash flow forecast for 3 years. So the majority of the banks would ask you for this. So if you're trying to raise money through a bank, they're going to be asking you for this. Is this easy to do? No, actually, it's very, very difficult. But that's not an excuse. I encourage you to sit down with advisors. I encourage you to sit down with your accountant and come up with good financial forecasts. And make sure that if you put in any numbers in your forecast, you justify these. That's really key. The other one is, when you do your financials, I like doing this, is look at different scenarios. You know, look at the worst case scenario, the probable scenario, and the best case scenario. That's what I encourage you to look at. Be very, very clear on how much money you need to raise. Is it 10,000? Is it 15,000? Is it 20,000? That's what you want to include. If you're trying to raise a lot of money, let's say you're trying to go for $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, one of the key things your investors are going to know is, what is your exit strategy? I'm going to lend you $1 million. How am I going to get paid back? This is really a key thing. And if you're an existing business, you'd include historical financial statements. But if you look at what I've shared with you so far, the importance of putting the marketing in, the importance of speaking about the people and your employees, the importance of the financials, you'll see that this covers a lot of sections in your business. Then your operations, for example, where are you going to be located? What size premises do you need? You need to know this before you go and look for premises. You need to know this before you complete your business plan. You need to know this before you test the viability of your business idea. And this is key, that you go and find this out. Go and look at other premises. Walk around and see what size premises other businesses similar to yours are using. What key processes and techniques are you going to use in your production, for example? And this is only relevant if you're producing something. If you're not producing something, leave this section out. It's really not that important. If you're operating a business out of your basement, in your pajamas, operations is probably not an important part of it. But maybe this section would be important for you. For example, your outsourcing strategy. Maybe you'd include there that you've recruited a couple of writers in I don't know, whatever, South America. They're going to develop content for you, or whatever it is. Speak about that. That could be really important. Your key suppliers. Who's going to supply your products and services to your business? This could be quite important for certain businesses, but not for all businesses. For example, if I'm importing a product, say, from, I don't know, the southern Mexico or something like that, having suppliers in place could be a really key thing. Let's say I'm creating a product to sell through retailers. You know, where am I going to get my product from? Where am I going to get my packaging from? You know, who's going to distribute it? All those things could be really important to the reader. And then your business operations model. So all of these things are things that you would include that would influence the person's decision. When it comes to technology, what hardware do you need? And that nowadays is, I always think about hardware has almost become irrelevant nowadays, because most of us, don't need too much technology nowadays because it's all cloud-based. But think about that. Is there any special hardware that you need? Any special software? Any cloud-based software that you need? Any special apps you need to have designed? What is your internet strategy? Maybe this would be something that you'd include in your marketing plan. But maybe you, for example, need, cloud-based storage or whatever it is that would influence, secure cloud-based storage that influence your decision. But again, it really depends on the nature of your business. So if the technology component is really important, you would include that in your plan. But if the technology component is not that important, well, you wouldn't need to include in your plan. And that is something you need to understand. The other thing you could maybe include is evidence of special relationships that you've created. Maybe letters of intent from customers saying that they're going to buy from you. Industry quotes that may be relevant from influential people. Maybe you would populate your plan with these industry quotes here and there so the reader understands what's happening in your industry. Maybe you'd have a plan of the layout of your store, for example, if you're opening a store. I had a very good example recently where I read this plan that somebody submitted, and they drew a copy of the plan. Instead of designing it properly, and they're trying to raise money for their business, and I'm thinking, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you spend an extra half an hour or an extra hour and get it done properly? Maybe a relevant newspaper and magazine articles or photographs that could be relevant. But the most important thing, this is really key. When you're creating a business plan, you're going to be submitting it to somebody like me, somebody else. You've got to make sure it's very concise and to the point. If you're not sure if you should put something in it, leave it out. Because if I need more information, I will ask you. How long should your business plan be? This is what I recommend. Never create a business plan longer than 10 to 20 pages. Keep it short and sweet and to the point. So 14 or 15 pages is my ideal. But you know what? Sometimes people will submit a plan that's 20 pages or 22 or 25. As long as it's relevant information, I'm okay. Use a font like size 11, for example. Space it properly so it's easy to read and easy to follow. Make it look professional. I've mentioned this twice now, but it's worth mentioning twice. Make it look professional. Only include relevant stuff. And your own business plan can be as long as it likes. And you can have a 500-page business plan. As long as the business plan you're submitting to a bank or an investor or an advisor like me is short and sweet to the point, that is the key thing. So focus on that, which is something that's really important. So let me just summarize quickly. I recommend that all of you create a business plan, especially if you're launching a new product or if you're changing the direction of your business or you're launching a brand new business. I think it's very, very important that you do that. That's the first thing. Secondly, go through all the different sections. Start off with your vision. This is what I plan to build. This is what my business is going to look like in 5 years' time. This is what it's going to look like in 10 years' time. The more clarity you have, the better it is for you. Once you know exactly what you want to build, then you go through the steps. You think about the legal stuff. What do I need to do when it comes to that? Then you think about the marketing. How am I going to get customers? Then you think about the finances, because this is a really key thing. You need to know what your gross profit margins are. You need to know what your break-even is. You need to know what your cash flow is going to be like. Once you've done that, focus on the people. What people do you need to employ, or what advisors do you need to get in place to help you succeed in this business? The last section you need to focus on is the operations and the technology, the operations and the internet part. For some of you, you don't even have to have that information about the technology. But for some of you, the operations is important, especially if you're in manufacturing. You need to show the person through a flow chart or whatever the process you're going to go through. But the most important thing is that you write every single thing down. Let me just say one final thing. The reason you create a business plan is because you want to succeed. Don't do it because somebody else tells you to do it. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Whatever idea I come up with, I want to test the viability of that. I do not want to fail. I do not want to take big risks. And I've realized over the years that when I make emotional decisions, when I make decisions based on my gut feel, instead of doing a full business plan, that's usually when I fail. And I don't want you to fail. So use this information and build a very successful business. That is my wish for every single one of you, that you build a business that you absolutely love going to every single day. The business plan can help you do that. The business plan can help you raise finance. The business plan can help check the viability of your idea, and this is why you need to create one, and you need to start working on it immediately.